That's some toxicity of corporate world. It's just the fakeness, the hypocrisy.
It's like everyone is secretly waiting for someone to fail.
Yeah.
And nobody wants the good of that person. Yeah.
This thing of staying in each other's houses, spending a vacation together, going on a vacation together, just tricky things that would bring results you don't want.
I went into that organization, I was the new person, and I would ask questions like, why is this like this? And everybody would defend the guy and turn against me. I once witnessed him yelling at our director of finance at the time. Like, he said, you know, you're stupid. And this guy's like, yes, sir, yes, sir.
If a personal assistant is a female and the boss is a male, regardless of they're single or married, you start realizing it's becoming something more.
That's how affairs start, man.
That's how affairs start.
Because
and sometimes
we have so many examples of people who have left their wives for their assistants. All right. So welcome once again, our lovely followers, subscribers, supporters, family and friends of HM Shima TV. My name is Maya, and I'm very happy and excited today to welcome you to another episode of Off Topic. My friend Anu, who is normally with me, today decided she's going to take a break, and I have another special friend that I want to introduce to you guys shortly. And together we're going to discuss this idea of toxic workplaces and the Christian perspective on that. How do we deal with it as believers? And I know that many of us don't know how to process this or make sense of this, and we want to be able to share some of our thoughts, and we hope that it will be helpful to you. So make sure you share this with a friend. Make sure if you haven't subscribed, subscribe that one. You know, I keep thinking about people who don't know how to say subscribe, and then I end up failing to
doing the same thing.
Okay. Yeah, and so make sure you share this with your friends. Share it with anyone you feel like this will be helpful to, and also subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure that you stay tuned to more conversations like this. All right. So without further ado, let me introduce to you a very special friend. Her name is Divine Kezia. Why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself? Who is Divine?
So hello, viewers. How are you? I'm very glad to be here, first of all. And Divine is a Christian girl. I'm a church girl from... Ever since I was born, I know myself in church. My names are Kanyange Sylvie Divine, but I also get called Kezia a lot. I'm a believer in Christ. I'm a singer, and I'm just a church girl enjoying church vibes. That's all. Yeah.
And some of you guys that follow our music, you might have seen her face. She's part of HM Africa, specifically HM Rwanda, and we are very excited to have her. And here we have a culture, an off topic. I will ask you a couple of random questions, and you share a little bit more about yourself so that people can get to know you. Why I'm saying these are random, I didn't prepare her. She doesn't know what those questions are. Maybe I also don't know what those questions are, but we're going to flow with it. Are you open to that?
I'm ready. Give them to me.
All right. So, first question. What is something people can't guess about you?
That I'm an introvert.
I feel like that's sort of.
That is because you know me.
Yeah.
Really. We've spent some time. But if we meet outside, I'm really loud. I will engage with people. I am very social.
Yeah.
I dance, I sing, regardless of people are strangers to me. But in my own time, I'm quiet.
Yeah.
I just want to be alone. So most of the people don't really know that I'm an introvert to that extent.
That also is because many people think being outgoing or being confident, being okay with people, like being social is what describes or what characterizes an extrovert. Yet, that's not what defines extroversion. Or extroversion. Okay, that's not what characterizes extroversion or introversion, right?
Yeah.
So you would find yourself at the end of those social gatherings, you just
You're
want to,
out of energy.
you're out of energy.
You need to be alone.
Yeah.
While the extroverts, they'll be like, oh, now, here we go. I
Yeah.
got the energy from people. But me, it takes time. It takes preparation
Yeah.
to be there and be loud. And like, no, now I need a day alone to really get back my energy.
That's very
So
fun.
that's one thing.
You know, I am very extroverted. I know this because I can be so tired, like physically tired. And then I hear people. And then I'm just fighting, like, no, I feel like I'm missing out. So instead of going to
You're
sleep,
really a people.
I am a people for real. I like people. I like being around people. I would like choose being around people.
Yeah.
I've had to learn to balance that out because that's not like,
Healthy.
it's not healthy.
Yeah.
You need to be okay with actually a balanced person. All of us should work towards, if you're extroverted, work towards some of those introverted traits because those are your growth areas and vice versa. Like just because you have a particular personality type doesn't mean you should be like that and and be like, this is who I am.
Yes.
If you're an introvert and you're not learning how to socialize or you're being antisocial, that will limit you in many ways.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm learning that when my energy is very low, I don't want to communicate to people. And it's not a good thing. People expect you to keep communicating,
Yeah.
regardless of whether you have energy or not. So I'm learning that whatever I feel, that's my problem.
Yeah.
I still need to talk to people,
Yeah.
regardless.
So it takes more effort.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. All right. So what's a radical belief you have that most people wouldn't agree with?
Okay. So, in this generation, things are changing,
Yeah.
and most Christians are navigating the Bible in a way they want. So, me, I was raised in a no school way, but a no school Christian way. So, what I'm saying, understand me from my own background.
Yeah.
Because nowadays people don't really take it that way.
Yeah.
So I believe that people in relationships, not only should they not be intimate together, they should do their best to stay away from each other in regards to intimacy, hugs, tight hugs, kisses, and other cuddling.
Yeah.
This thing of staying in each other's houses, spending a vacation together, going on a vacation together, just tricky things that would bring results you don't want. So, in my very traditional mindset, I believe that we should, as God says that we should flee from the enemy, he will go away from us. We should also flee from temptations. They will never come to us. So that's something. I believe I said the words and people heard what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yes, flee from your youthful lusts. Don't open a door for the enemy. Instead of having to deal with regret, just put those strong boundaries. I think those are good boundaries to put. Most people don't have the discipline to hold those boundaries or to keep themselves accountable. So definitely I support you on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
And it's not old school. I think it's just some people are more conservative on some things. It's not like it's old school anything.
Yeah.
So yeah. So that's a little bit about Divine. Divine, do you have a secret talent?
None that I remember.
Do you have something that you can
but okay, it's not secret. Some people know, but I can act.
Hey.
Yeah.
So if anyone looking for actors here,
Here I am. I can act. I did in high school.
Yeah.
And it actually made my heart happy. It fulfills me.
Yeah.
But then I realized that I want to do this now.
You don't really like it that much.
Yeah, I don't really like it that much, but I can.
Yeah.
I know how to become another character that I'm totally not in real life.
Yeah.
and you'll be like, who are you? I can become something else. So that's something
Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I think I can also act. I also had a secret desire to become an actress. But just the idea of just imagining a different life and being able to pretend to be like that for a while. Yeah, that was very enticing.
Indeed.
Yes, but didn't go to get that far. But I've done like theater style. And actually I have a dream of doing like theatrical
Plays.
stuff like even in Rwanda, Burundi, because I know like we don't have a lot of theater like
We
where you
don't,
can go and watch plays. We used to do it in CLA, but like there are not a lot of places where you can get to experience that. So
Yeah.
so anyway, thank you, Divine, for sharing a bit about yourself.
Yeah.
What do you do? Since we're about to talk about workplace, professional stuff, what do you do?
So I'm a banker, and I'm in. Let me make it more specific. I'm in treasury. I look for the funding for the bank. So yeah, I work in that. I also work in partnership. So I have two roles in the funding and also in partnerships.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very, very nice. So she suggested this topic, and I think it's so relevant, so helpful, because we all at some point have to navigate difficult workplaces. But specifically, she said, let's talk about what does it look like for a Christian to navigate from a biblical perspective, a workplace that is labeled toxic, right? So let's start from there.
Yeah.
You know, that word is one of those overused words
Indeed.
in this generation,
Yeah.
right? It's like any person you don't like, you just label them as
Toxic.
toxic, right?
Yeah.
And one thing I realized, we are all toxic.
We are.
All of us. Like if you sit down and tell me how many things that are toxic about you, have toxic traits. Every one of us does.
Yes.
Right?
yes.
So how would we define when it comes to like workplaces? Okay, no, first of all, define toxic, of itself, the word. What do you understand by it?
So me, in my case, I look at it like any trait or behavior of a person that is destructive to others, it's toxic. But also in workplace view, I look at it if a person is manipulative for their own interest instead of yours or both you and the other person, and they use you for their own interest or as a ladder to climb, that's toxic and manipulative. And there's another toxicity in the workplace that happens is there's this fakeness. Okay, people don't want to be rude, but they are rude inside, and then they find a way to make it look.
The hypocrisy.
I don't even the hypocrisy.
Yeah.
It might not sound toxic, but at the end of the of time, as time goes by, you will realize you don't know people you're working with. You don't know what's true and what's not. You don't know where they stand. You don't know if they support a project or they don't. If they're going to fund you or not. And it ends up being like who to trust. Who do I trust?
Yeah.
What do I know that is true actually and not fabricated? So that's some toxicity of corporate world. It's just the fakeness, the hypocrisy, the way things might be minimal, they make it look big, or those that are big make them seem minimal. So yeah, that's a very good way of explaining it, but that's how I look at it.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good, because when I think about the word toxic, I think about poisonous, right? Like when something is toxic, it actually is destructive, like you said. And you want to stay away from things that like toxic air, like air that is intoxicated, or like anything that has the word toxic, that at the end of the day,
Stay away from it.
you have to stay away from it because it's destroying you,
Yeah.
rather than,
Building you up.
building you or promoting life. It's not healthy,
Yes.
And then also something that you said about one of the main traits of such environments, like, is the hypocrisy that creates an environment where it's like everyone is secretly waiting for someone to fail.
Yeah.
and nobody wants the good of that person and the next
Yeah.
person. So it's like everyone is in it for themselves, and some
Yes.
workplaces promote that. It's a way of motivating staff to kind of compete in a way that benefits the organization, but in a way that actually destroys those people.
Yeah.
Their character. They
Yeah.
don't promote character, but they promote goals and competition.
Yes.
And then that thing creates this weird environment,
Toxicity.
toxicity, where people are just constantly trying to pull others down so that they can get ahead.
Definitely,
For
yeah.
example, someone can go and find something wrong and tell this person, and then leaders promote that kind of thing where you tell me if someone is doing something wrong, which means that everybody is like going
Now
behind the back.
traitor.
Exactly. A
Yeah.
traitor and backstabbing their friends. And yet someone could have a wrong idea about a situation, or they could go and tell someone like, hey, I don't think this is okay.
Yes.
And that person is aware.
Yes.
And then they change, or even if they don't change, at least you tell them. And if you have to take extra action, maybe for their own sake and for your own sake, because you now know about it.
Yes.
Yeah, but like the first thing is like to really promote the welfare of others. But such places are looking for others to fall so that I can get and look better.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've actually gone to the next part of this conversation, is describing some of those traits and also focusing on how they affect a person when you're in such an environment. So you talked about manipulation.
Manipulation.
Yeah. What does that look like in the workplace? Can you give like examples so someone can even understand, like, what does it look like when I'm being manipulated?
Yeah. So I would use an example. I've had some experience where my boss, this is like past years ago, would tell me something and be like, please, you're not doing good at this. I told you to do this and this and this, and you're not really doing good. And then I keep trying to upward my standard and fulfill the conditions he's asking for. And then later on, after we completed that assignment, he told me, you were actually doing good from the first day. I just wanted you to become the best. And he never told me, you have some potential in you. You can do this and this. No, he said, you're not really trying. Everything
reverse
you're
psychology.
doing, yeah, it was reverse psychology. Everything you're doing is just messed up.
Yeah.
He was like, you can't send emails on time, you can't do this on time, you're writing some letters and it's taking you a whole hour. And I was like, oh God, how do I need to do this? And I started competing with my own self. I was like, okay, let me try. And then later on, when he completed the assignment and he was willing to keep working with me, when I told you something, you clearly understood it and we were working on it. I actually told you all those just to help you to do more. And
Wow.
and how manipulative was that is because, yes, I did better, but I spent more hours at work than I was supposed to. I forgot everything because I hate failing. So I was like, I have to win in this. I forgot every other plans. I was like, there was no work balance, work-life balance.
Yeah.
No, it was just work until like late hours of the day. And then in the morning, I'm back. In the weekend, I'm back. So I felt like, it would have been better if I knew that I'm doing good, at least.
Yeah. I think another thing I've seen that is a characteristic of toxic workplaces is unfairness and lack of transparency with regards to pay, benefits, and people are told one thing, others are told, and like they're the same position, but then they're not getting the same benefits. And of course, it's just all about negotiation power.
I know.
Someone negotiates, they get something better. The other person, even though maybe they're more qualified, but because they didn't negotiate,
Yeah.
and there's no kind of like a pay, what do you call it? There's no fair pay grading scale or something. And I think that can cause like people to really feel betrayed.
It does. I have seen this.
Yeah.
sometimes it's even now gender related, where women get less pay than their managers. Some senior officer who's a man gets more, or
Yeah.
even almost the same salary, and
Yeah.
you're like, wow, is this
Yeah.
also about the negotiation, or there's
Yeah.
even stereotypes around it? So
It's true.
you see people who come from abroad, they did their schools from abroad, and they now negotiate on a high price. Those who did in Rwanda or in the local universities, it's just something they base on that is not true. Like, we both are knowledgeable, we both are smart, we can do this and this, we have the same experience, you're supposed to get the same treatment.
Yeah.
But they base it on like your English accent as well. Where you
English
went to
is not our
school.
motherland,
I
please.
know. Where you went to school, how you look like, or even your
Yeah.
negotiation skills and
Yeah.
so really it's something we need to navigate on, because it's not fair.
Yeah.
It's not fair, and I hope many people can learn their
Yeah.
rights, and know that irregardless of which school you went to, or your background, how you talk, your accent, and other things, you deserve better. You deserve what others are getting.
Yeah. As long as you're qualified.
Yeah.
And it's not like we're saying like you should reduce the standards just to accommodate people, no. But like definitely, things like accents or whatnot, those things should not matter.
They shouldn't.
But-
Always negotiate like you're it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's move on to kind of the more blatant signs, right? Like abuse,
Yes.
right? Like abuse of power, emotional abuse, physical sometimes.
Yes.
Can you talk about some of those things? What are some of the examples?
Yeah. So luckily I haven't been in very, very toxic places, but I've seen other colleagues face them. So one of the signs I've seen is when your workmates are how do we say, they have presumptions on you, and they always reflect them on your actions. So like, let's take one example. They assume you're lazy, and actually maybe you take time with your things, or you are actually working hard, but because they have that settled in their mind that you're lazy, and they tell sometimes your superiors or other people, either, I just used one example, you're lazy, or you're loud,
You're incompetent.
you're incompetent. Some can even say that you have bad behavior, you're really not a nice person. And then even the new people who can come to the workplace, they will tell them, be careful of that one. And really, those things, not only can they affect your image at work, it affects your image in life. Because
Yeah.
especially in a small country like this, we all know each other, so we will meet somewhere else, and the way people talk about you at work will be the way you're reflected in your community. So if they say that person has an attitude, and other people also think you have an attitude, and they will view you in that sense, and slight thing you can do, they will now make it look like you really have an attitude, or you're really incompetent, or there's this thing where one person told me this person loves money a lot. He will get a client just because he wants money. And now when he gets even good clients, good deals, people will think it's because he wants money. So it's a really bad thing, which they normally do, advisors at my old workplace, that we learn empathy. If you don't want such stereotype on you, don't put it on other people. Even when it can look true to you, you have no right of calling the person the way you view them. Like, don't put a certain box on them and be like, that's where they belong and that's it.
That's who they are.
Yeah, that's
so
who
true.
they are, especially the leaders. When you have like a CEO or a chief or something, and people in the department put him or her in a certain box, now every strategy he brings, every advice he brings, you don't look at it in a way that is being said. You look at it like, no, actually, no, he means something else. There's another intent behind that.
Yeah.
So that is one thing, creating a certain stereotype about someone. The second is when people do truly not want you to grow. They're like, okay, he or she will not get fired, but
But we'll make sure
her time here will not be a happy time.
yeah.
So we're in times where people have really bad intentions and they're even proud of them and they don't hide it anymore. That's even more scary. And when people are like, no, we don't vibe, and they don't even hide it. So it's good, so you know how to behave around them, but it's also scary, like we are all here to work. We're not here for entertainment. We're here because we want to make a living, or because we have a purpose that aligns with this workplace. So we should be supporting each other. This ain't a competition. It's not Miss Rwanda. It's not a UK Got Talent. This is a workplace.
Yeah.
We
We're
just
on the
have,
same team.
yeah, we're in a team. We have assigned roles and responsibilities to fulfill. And we're not here to kill each other. We're not here to win over something. Everyone has their own KPIs. So let's not divert the intent of work. We're here to make a living, not to build grudges, not to build gangs, groups, cliques, where this one is against this one. And like we never work together. There's certain departments that can be against each other, and you're like, why? What's the intention really? What are we gaining from this? So that thing is really very toxic. You might find people, I know many will relate, where you have a colleague, maybe you don't even know yet, but that colleague wants nothing good for you. There comes an opportunity for a mission, or you traveling abroad maybe, or somewhere where you will get some benefits. They make sure you don't get on that list. There comes this thing
You
of
don't even know, because these
I
people can be
know.
even like
your best friends,
or
your
your
close
supervisor
people.
who you think
I know.
this is like this
Eish,
person's on
I've seen
my
that
side.
thing now that
Yeah.
you mention it. So where your supervisor someone will look like supportive,
Yeah.
but actually no, they don't support you.
Yeah.
So they ask for people to be recognized, like at the end of a quarter or a year, and they don't mention your name. But in reality, they always tell you you're doing good. You know, there's certain people in every company or an organization where they've done their best even for years, but they're not being recognized. Why?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's their supervisors or their colleagues who don't take them serious, or who don't want them to be the highlight.
Nice. Yeah.
So that thing, not really
Yeah.
nice.
So I've been in workplaces where like I've seen the more extreme forms of like overt abuse, right? Like a boss who is abusive, like verbally. I remember I used to work in this place and the boss would yell. I once witnessed him yelling at our director of finance at the time and telling him like really verbally, like he said, you know, you're stupid. And this guy's like, yes, sir, yes, sir. I remember just seeing that and I knew in my heart I had to quit. Actually, that boss was very good to me. But I knew that he had this thing where if he liked you, meaning you kind of like, you know, are on his side or whatever, then he treated you really well. But also if you ever challenge him on his decisions, and then you'd go on the wrong
doomed.
side. Yes, and you are doomed. And in that particular organization, I think that was the third finance director who actually, that guy stayed long because I don't think he outlived him, because I think he eventually fired him, because he fired every finance director who questioned
His decisions,
right? Like he wanted to have control over the money, felt like the organization belonged to him, and yet it was not. It was like an NGO, right?
Yeah.
And then his PAs would resign, like, and they would not resign, they would disappear. You know, when someone doesn't even give notice, just know
Yeah.
it's very bad.
Wow.
Like, they would just leave
Without
and
asking for the money.
without nothing,
Yeah.
and would message them, hey, coming into work, and they'd be like, I'm never coming back to that place again, because it was verbally abusive, and that was really hard. But also, I later realized that there's culture also that plays into some of those things.
Yes.
I think that if you're from Burundi or from Rwanda, and you have a leader from like cultures where people just speak blatantly, bluntly,
I know.
you know, right?
I know.
That can be very hard,
It
because I
is.
think Rwandans and Burundians were not used to that level of harshness. And yet for people from those cultures, it's their way of, actually they appreciate speaking bluntly than, like, you know, what you were saying, the hypocrisy.
The hypocrisy.
Where you're on the other side, you're like, all of you guys are secretly wishing for his downfall. Like, you'd rather you walk up to him and you just tell him off, or you know, okay, you can't, that thing will only work one way. He's the one who talks to you, but
Yeah.
if you do the same thing, then it might end badly for you. But also, yeah, so there was that culture in play, and it was really difficult.
Yeah.
In that sense. And then I've also seen situations where, when you talk about manipulation, where the boss like hires people who he has other relationships, like he's related to them, or they owe him. Okay, actually, he hires them, and then they kind of feel like they owe him, so they have to be loyal to him,
And not be against him.
and not be against him. So, and then I went into that organization. I was the new person, and I would ask questions like, "Why is this like this?" And everybody would defend the guy and turn against me, because they were like, "If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be here. He's the what." Like, they would talk about him like they owe him, but also he would threaten them, you know, in the background. So yeah, those things are like real things, you know.
Yeah, they are. There's something you mentioned, the culture differences in the workplace. It can make things worse.
Yes.
You know, working with like East Africans working with West Africans.
Yes.
It is very hard.
Yes.
You either need to come up to their level, or they come down to yours.
Yes.
Otherwise, you will keep just fighting.
True.
Because in regards of the level of communication they're very honest, they're very like straightforward, and then
and they're not they don't
gentle. Sugarcoat anything.
No. They just tell you, like,
if you're
you
dumb,
are
they say
failing.
you are dumb.
What are you doing?
You are dumb. I had one boss, and that boss was West African.
Yeah.
He looked at me and he was like, "You wrote on your CV that you're proficient in Excel and you know how to use Canva and you do marketing and stuff. I really don't see that."
Yeah.
He was like, "You don't know nothing on Excel. I can assure you, you don't know nothing. In fact, join my courses." He was doing online courses. Yeah. "Join my courses and I teach you, because I don't know why I hired you on that basis."
Yo.
I was like, "Really? You're taking all my degree just like that?"
Yeah.
But at one point I started admiring it, because at least I know where he standed, instead of like our Rwandan culture. But it was harsh at one point. I was like, "Yo, at least keep it to yourself."
Yeah.
Or all the bosses, where you enter, something that comes to their mind, that's what they say. They're like, "You look like a 50-year-old woman today." And like, "You really, I tried."
Or like, even in the like sexual harassment, you know.
Indeed.
Making someone who is like making a sexual comment, and you're like,
they did.
Awkward.
Like, you have boundaries at work.
Yeah.
There should be boundaries. But then some people don't follow them. So there'll be like, you're going for a presentation, you have to look nice, you look your best. Then they're like, "Oh," they make a comment that is not really nice.
Yes.
You're like, "No, you're my boss."
Yeah, exactly.
There should be boundaries in
Yes.
this. You're my boss, and that's it. Yeah. And then, or those people who work together for long, they start becoming attached to each other and forget the boundaries. Yeah. And this is toxicity in its best. Yes. Where people will start calling you their woman.
Yeah,
this thing,
the
work wife, work
yeah.
husband. And then
I see it
maybe
a
it's
lot of
even one-sided,
yes.
or most of the time it's one-sided. And then you're like, how do I tell this person this is rude and not,
Work. I don't. I always wonder, like, people's actual husbands and wives, like, how do they
how
feel
do
like
they
that?
feel?
Because I would never, ever be okay with that.
Something that we should be watching out at it. Coco, hey, what is that? People, you're like, you come here, you join an organization, and they're like, that is my wife, or like my work wife, or my best friend, whatever they call each other. And then you realize, Konyine, there's a certain relationship between them that is weird.
Yeah.
And they may both be married to other people.
That's how affairs start, man.
That's how affairs start.
Because you're spending more time with this person, you are opening up, telling them things you don't tell your actual spouse.
I know. And God forbid you work with them and one of them is your supervisor. He will always favor the work wife.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no fairness in that. Once you bring emotions in Mugno, it becomes unfair.
I must admit that's one thing I've never actually experienced or even witnessed, because I think the places I've worked with have been largely kind of Christian environment, except for one. But like, that's definitely something that wasn't.
There's certain places where, like, if a personal assistant is a female and the boss is a male, and regardless of if they're single or married, you start realizing it's becoming something more. And sometimes
we have so many examples of people who have left their wives for their assistants. It's
I
not
know.
like
The PA doesn't have a trace most of the time because it's their job to help and assist the boss. And then,
do you think we should have this gender? I mean, I don't know. I feel like
it shouldn't be.
It's tricky.
It shouldn't be.
It's tricky because sometimes I know that it's good to have like a woman in such positions, like if you're a guy, because like, because there's some of the things like, making tea, welcoming the host, the hospitality aspect, although men can also do that. But people would prefer women in such positions. Although it makes it tricky to, those boundaries start getting crossed.
Yeah, I was a PA once. I seen it all. I was like, okay, God, this is one career I don't want to keep being in. This is wrong. Because, okay, if you're a PA of a woman, she might also cross the boundaries, but not as men. It starts being uncomfortable. And
if you're left alone in the office with them,
yes,
because like if you're a PA, you're not leaving before your boss.
Yeah.
So
if he's working, you're working.
You're working.
Yeah.
So if he has like this deadline, you're staying after hours, just the two of you. He's gonna drive you home.
Going to every restaurant for the meetings.
Yeah. Two of you. You're gonna drive in the car probably because you feel bad, so he'll want to drop you off. Then we are human beings.
We are.
We're not.
It is tricky, but then it takes the level of being professional to keep that and stay in your boundaries. I know some people do it very well, very professional.
Yeah.
So, and it's most likely on the level of the boss, because if the boss is very professional, assistant will have to follow. But if the boss is trying to be benefiting things he shouldn't be benefiting, so it's tricky for the assistant because you have no say sometimes in that, unless you want to quit.
No. So there are a lot of things. I think we can, for this first episode, kind of talk about because I feel like this is a great conversation that we should continue, and we should do like a part 2 of like, how do we now look at it from a biblical perspective.
Yes.
So basically, to conclude this first part, some of the things we've talked about that border on the verge of inappropriate, like starting backwards, we've talked about things that put you in a position where you feel uncomfortable, where you feel like there are moral boundaries that are being crossed, and even and then of course we've talked about the other side of things that work politics culture that can actually really be harmful and destructive to a person and destroy the team spirit. And then even bosses using strategies to motivate their employees or their supervisees, using manipulation as a form of motivation rather than just being really honest with them. And then unfair and just practices like, not having, not paying people the same, even though they're qualified in the same way. Like promoting people in a way that's not really making any sense.
Speak about that.
And then, people are just like, okay, all right. And then we've talked about those relationship, work husband, work wives, whatever. And that, honestly, that when I see it on social media, I even wonder if it's like a thing.
It happens.
It happens in Rwanda.
It happens where I am.
I've never seen that.
It looks funny, but it's not funny.
Yeah.
So it's something people may enjoy, but it shouldn't be enjoyed.
Yeah. So it's just like a best friend from work who's from the opposite
or
gender.
Someone you work with and you find them attractive and they find you attractive, and you don't have a relationship, but you have something that is weird.
You flirt, but you don't do anything.
Yeah.
You help each other. You protect each other. You like form your own little team. Yeah. So like all those things are things that we need to look at from a biblical perspective.
Yeah.
And probably more. And I would love for you guys to also comment in the comment section. Sure. What have you seen in your own experience? What have you witnessed, or what have you been through, if you don't mind sharing? And how it just affects all of us, because this type of thing creates an environment that makes you feel like, I don't want to go to work. Like every morning, every time it's Sunday night, you're dreading Monday because you don't want to be with those people. And then at the same time, you also have to spend time with those same people because you work with them and you're on the same team. So in our next episode, we're going to talk about how to deal with that from a Christian perspective. Thank you for joining us. Divine, would you like to say something as we
wrap up this for everyone episode? We say the bad experiences and all, but we would like your comments and also your views on this topic. And next episode we'll also talk how should we go about it as Christians, and how does God advise us to go about it. And you could also give your advice on it, on the issues we mentioned, about whether it happened to you and what you did, and how you think as Christians we should behave in toxic workplaces.
Yeah. All right. So thank you for joining us. This was Maya and
Divine.
And we look forward to seeing you in our next episode.
See you.
Bye-bye.